So let me first record my heartfelt appreciation to Solar Quarter for launching this wonderful edition on Asia's most influential woman in Wari. I felt very happy and proud to have contributed to forward to this publication as well. I congratulate all the leading women experts who have featured in this edition. But I have a request for Solar Quarter. Please publish this edition every half year because we have many unsung women leaders, entrepreneurs, and implementers in Asia, the clean energy sector, and also include energy efficiency as well because there are a lot of women working in the energy efficiency space as well. So we can term it as clean energy instead of renewable energy. That's just a small request.
Sure.
For factual reconfirmation,
Sure,
I'm Dinesh. I'm Dinesh, and I have a long name. That's why it's very easy to remember Dinesh as my name to be called. And I work at EY, and I'm leading this prestigious SBI, the World Bank MNRE Technical Assistance Program for the rooftop solar. It is exclusively designed for grid-connected rooftop solar. And we have been working in this program since August 2017 in 17 states. And I'm very happy to also have Mani in this panel. She has been driving force for this program as well, along with her colleagues. And we have been doing a lot of work in terms of creating the enabling environment for the rooftop solar in the policy intervention, capacity building, process streamlining, knowledge sharing, etc. And we have been very successful in various fronts in terms of building the kind of ecosystem for these 17 states. We are working with, in fact, 31 discoms to basically convert them to adopt rooftop solar in a accelerated manner. So it's a daunting task, but nevertheless, we have been quite relentlessly working with them for the past couple of years or more. And that has given a lot of opportunity for us to, for me to engage with several of the stakeholders in this sector. I came back to India in 2014, and I didn't miss India at all because I've been working very closely with India, even though I was away in Singapore for 10 years. But since 2014, I've been very closely working with the stakeholders. Especially, I don't know whether KUMUD ma'am remembers me. I've been working with her in National Smart Grid Mission under the USAID Phase D program. So I'm very happy to see her in the panel as well. But I still wonder why Solar Quarter chose me to be the moderator of this event. Then I realized that they would like to create the most perfect gender imbalance, the most desired one. So I think that sets the tone because I think they wantedly planted me in this event instead of calling a woman a moderator. So I know the agenda, so I have to be very careful here. But I also remember a similar situation happened to Tanya last year, I believe in October or November at the EQ event. And she was the only female speaker in the panel, if I remember rightly. And and I should admit, she rocked actually. So I hope she will also give the same compliments to me after the end of this session.
You're already rocking, Dinesh. So I don't think there is much more to do.
Right. Thank you. On the subject of the gender, coming to the topic, I know a lot of audience are signing in, and I believe all the featured women leaders are also signing in from all over the world. And it would be great if all the participants, by kind of gesture, can raise their hands in applauding all these women. I don't need a voice because you're all muted, but if you can raise your hands as a symbol or a gesture in applauding all these women, I think 140 women have been featured in this edition. And there are more, there are really more. So that's a great kind of, I would say, a visionary move or the step made by First View and Solar Quarter. But on this subject, which is just quite serious and a sensitive one, as I told you, much has been said than done, I would say. So it's very easy to say it's time to shut up and just make it happen. And that's what we are here to make it happen. And at this point of time, I also remember the former Prime Minister, late Indira Gandhi, said, there are no men or women, but only people. She said this actually. And everyone has man and women in them. And what I look for and what it matters is their competency. That's it. So such a powerful statement from a powerful lady. We have a lot of controversies. We can debate about her leadership. But such a statement coming from her was very, very impressive. And competency, that's a word, If you're really competent enough, then who cares, But as such, it's the right time. It's quite crucial. to reflect and refocus on what could be done better and differently also to close the gender gap. But having said that, since I belong to EY, I should say a few words about what EY believes. So EY believes gender equality is not a problem at all to solve, but rather it's a solution to business and society's most complex challenges. So by thinking differently, challenging differently, engaging differently, we can all take action to bring about the collective change towards gender equality. That's a strong belief of EY here. But having said that, the power of women in energizing India and Asia as such is so unparalleled. It has become an integral part of every Asian family, I would say. Women have silently but yet successfully have transformed Asia to embrace and lead the clean and sustainable energy economy from field to the board, consulting to manufacturing, financing to entrepreneurs, preachers to practitioners, consumers to influencers, critics to policymakers, and it goes on. And Asia, especially India, has witnessed it all actually. But again, strongly feel that it's time to listen to the power of her voice, feel the transformation, celebrate and showcase her success, create that infectious and sustainable transformation, and just leave it to her, She will take care of it zillion times better than now what's happening in this world. So on the professional side also, I should state that I've been quite blessed, fortunate of having worked with several women leaders and colleagues. And just by working with them or just kind of taking guidance from them or just even seeing them, I get a lot of inspiration by their style of work and their leadership. But having said that, I'm extremely happy, very, very humbled and felt privileged to be a part of today's session. And I hope I'll make the justice in the role of the role being assigned to me. I'm really feeling jittery now, but I have to really get confidence by seeing all of you. So we have two panel discussions and 8 superlative personalities who have successfully broken their barriers, I should say. Traveled a long way, I should say. It's not overnight success for any one of them, and even for the 140 personalities also. And they have just traveled with sheer grit and confidence. So I request the audience to stay back, not be misled with the 2 different panels, because it is natural that after the end of the panel, we say thank you to the panelists and then people start leaving. So please understand that there are 2 different panels and 8 speakers who have agreed to spend the next kind of 90 minutes with us. So please stay and benefit from the discussions. And without any further boring remarks from my end, I would now briefly give it back to the organizers for the poll, and then we can start the session 1. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. Now I would be quickly launching few polls back to back. Mr. Dinesh, I believe there's some connectivity issue, so I hand over the session again to you. I'll be launching the polls a little while later.
Sure, that's fine with me. So let me know whenever you're ready, and then maybe after the panel is complete, we can do that.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So as Sangeeta was telling earlier, the panels are we have 2 different sessions in this webinar today. And the first panel is on industry leadership. We have some leading points on the industry leadership session as well. And we have 4 speakers, as I mentioned to you. And I would like to kind of structure the panel in such a way that initially I would request each one of the panelists to give opening remark on the subject. Could be your experience or suggestions or anything that comes to your mind which is more relevant to the topic. Please do take 2.5 to 3 minutes if possible. And don't make me run the stop clock. So please be brief as much as we can. And then I'll go to the next speaker. Then after that, I would like to then come back to the first speaker if they are available for a couple of questions. And again, 3 minutes if possible. Then the last round will be a kind of closing remarks where either you could give a closing remark or I can try to see whether there are burning questions from the audience. So I feel that this would be okay to each one of you. And I would, yeah, I would take the nod as yes, and then I'll proceed now. So the first session is on industry leadership. Again, we can debate this, whether there is enough being done in terms of leadership in the industry, the renewable energy industry. The answer is a pretty no. We know a lot of efforts have been put, but definitely there's a lot to be done. But having said that, we are all really witnessing a massive change in the kind of perception, in terms of reality, and in terms of what is in store for the future. And I should also mention about what is happening currently in the COVID times. What not we have witnessed for the past 80 odd days, actually. We have witnessed 5 extended lockdowns, 1 unlock, locust, earthquake, everything. We have witnessed everything in this 75 to 80 days, which we have never witnessed in our lives. But also the silver lining is double rainbow in Delhi. I don't know how many of you have seen it. We have seen double rainbows twice in the last 1 week. And then we have seen videos of clean Ganga, clean water bodies, the cleanest air ever possible in Delhi. Just imagine, we saw that. And then also the Himalayas and the hillsides. So a lot of good things we have seen. But also we have to understand whether this would also empower the current gender aspects. So at home, personally speaking, I could witness what a homemaker like my wife could do or is doing, which otherwise I was not privy to it at all. So she wonders, I'm working at office, and I wonder she's always sitting at home doing nothing. But I could see now what she's doing, and she's also seeing what I'm doing right now as we speak. So that's a big change, right? And that's for good. And we know that this is not going to be forever, but we want to go to the normal. But the new normal, as it hits all of you, is going to be really, really good and a better one. I wish for that. So with that opening remarks, I'm now turning to Dr. MEGHA PUSHPENDRA, who's the lead strategic communication at ISA. And again, I've been so fortunate to work with her for the past 3-4 years, and I know her for long. And she's currently working with my technical assistant Suprabha program, also indirectly from MNRE perspective. So MEGHA, I would like to give the floor to you to give your remarks and experience and share your learnings, actually. Over to MEGHA.
Thank you, Dinesh. It's a strange day for me. I developed fever 2 days back, and I hope this is some heat stroke and it's not virus. So I would try to do justice to be sitting here with all the great people who are there on the panel. So thank you once again, Dinesh. And very important issue the organizers have chosen for today's discussion, which is, and particularly this session, which is on industry leadership. I'm very glad that we have the right mix on this panel, which has leaders from Multilateral Development Bank, National Smart Grid Mission, leading private sector entities to actually round it off and bring it to optimum fruition. So I would beg your apology for not staying beyond this first round due to my health condition. I would first like to introduce my organization to you, very proudly so. I come from International Solar Alliance, which is an international intergovernmental body working towards deployment of solar energy in member countries. The main objective of the ISA is to deploy 1,000 gigawatt of solar energy in its member countries by 2030. Currently, we have 67 member countries, and total of 86 countries have signed the framework agreement on the establishment of the International Solar Alliance. ISA has successfully created $5 billion USD worth of project pipeline in past 5 years by aggregating demand in various solar applications. Global energy access is the mandate of International Solar Alliance, and we are directly impacting SDGs 7 and 13, which is ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy to all, and climate change. More women in leadership roles can change the whole paradigm of energy access. There is no news in that. And ISA is committed to gender equality and amongst the other streams to uplift the development in member countries. Women can improve energy value chain effectiveness by leaps and bounds in decision-making positions at various levels and branches within the value chain. The voice of women contributes to more balanced and diverse decisions. Women in leadership roles can encourage behavioral change from top to bottom. We've bring emotional intelligence on table. We bring the human element in connecting with the grassroots level from where the lives can be impacted. Following the cue you have given in the agenda, I would like to make few initial notings, and I would stick to just leadership part of it. Rest, I'm sure I have better people sitting here to deliberate on. Let's begin with the topical proposition we all are grappling with, which is COVID-19 that has damaged the whole world economy, and global value chains are disrupted, and RE sector has also suffered a substantial setback. But the economy cannot be in coma. We have to bounce back to path of recovery. Good news is that all is not lost, and we are not part of the problem. We are part of the solution. It is widely deliberated that path to recovery is through clean energy. In fact, we just concluded a high-level webinar last week in ISA on impact of COVID-19 on global solar markets and other climate action markets. And almost every climate advocacy champion noted that the path to recovery is through clean energy. So that is a good news. But the need of the hour is to rediscover our leadership styles. The challenge has thrown us in a situation where organizations who would be fueling the economy back to track need to have facilitative leadership styles. So maybe in the times just brushed by, traits like being aggressive, assertive, bold, abrasive were attributed to competence, not anymore. Looking at the challenges and the current challenge that we are grappling with, we need to have humility to distrust our own rigid mindsets as leaders. You've heard it right. I said distrust our own rigid mindsets as leaders, and on the contrary, develop individual and direct connection with fellow colleagues. Every person working on continuity of business is a leader in its own right. A call center employee is generating a lead. Somebody must be asking a call center employee to give an address to the portal, and he's generating a lead. A frontline executive is generating a lead. A mid-career professional supervising a team is leading the business forward. So we need to empathize. We need to coach on a personal level, and this has to be. The assessments have to be made by validating our decisions by based on evidence and not just on our mindsets, which we could afford when we were in the same physical space. Right now, we are not. So once we take a look at what I have already spoken, women come out as natural champions with innate traits like self-awareness, humility, emotional intelligence, agreeableness, coachability, connecting with others, mentoring and managing others. As you, Dinesh, just now mentioned about your wife, she's been doing this in and out all day long with you and the family, and also the KPIs like revenues and profits. So rather than emulating some pseudo-Machiavellian strategy, we must work towards elevating the quality of leadership. And that would be my humble submission to the forum for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Megha. That's a very powerful opening, I would say. Changing the mindset, being flexible, I have a lot of humility, a lot of keywords to the rest of the speakers, but I hope there'll be a lot of keywords emanating out of this session as well. So let me now move to Mani. I know Mani KHURANA quite well, I believe, for the past couple of years plus. And she has been a wonderful colleague in terms of working with. And fortunately, I know it's a coincidence, she has worked with the UI also, so she knows how UI works, and that's how I'm caught all the time. So I have to be very careful when I deal with her in terms of the official statements or progress, what is happening now. But it's quite interesting that she has stuck with the World Bank for more than a decade, 12 years plus money, if I'm right. And that's a great thing. I never settled for more than 3.5 years in a company. But being at World Bank for 12.5 years plus and going strong, it's a great kind of an achievement, Mani. So over to you for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you for those words. Very kind of you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Solar Quarter. It's been an honor to be featured in this list. It means a lot. I just wanted to, as an opening remark, I just wanted to share the journey. As Dinesh mentioned, I've been with World Bank for 12 years now. So when I started working with World Bank back in 2007, back in 2007, what was the entire thing with World Bank at that point of time was, we were looking at how to actually, and if you think back now, we were thinking how to rehabilitate the old coal plants, which were there with us for 20 years. And I realized when I started visiting those coal plants, and every time I used to visit a coal plant, I used to come out of the coal plant dirty, and you would go in wearing clean clothes and you would come out there, just full of soot. And it was, the clean energy was happening, but at that time, the renewable energy prices were high. So people were not really going in for renewable energy. But it was, as the prices started falling, we started exploring what kind of different renewable energies can be, we could look to in India. It was great to actually join that journey in India's renewable energy. So we started working out with MNRE at that point of time on the solar rooftop program. As Dinesh mentioned it earlier, it's very close to both our hearts. World Bank actually provided a $625 million line of credit to SBI to on-lend for people who would like to put solar rooftop. So normally Rescos would take that loan, and or bigger companies would take that loan to actually put solar rooftop. It was basically for the commercial and industrial sector earlier. And the idea was to start with commercial and industrial sector because the tariffs of the commercial and industrial sectors are much higher than the residential. So it made business sense to start with them, show how it can be done in this commercial and industrial sector, and then go to other sectors. But another thing which we all have to keep in mind, climate change is for real, renewable energy is required, we all need to work towards it. But we cannot dismiss the current structure of the energy sector, where the distribution sector, the transmission sector play a very vital role. So what actually has helped me in these years is working, when I started with World Bank, to work in these states, in different states. I've worked across states where we've actually worked with distribution and transmission sector and tried to analyze what is their problem and why are they not making profits, and what is and it's a great learning, because if you really look at it, the power purchase cost for a distribution company is 60% of its cost. So as renewable energy becomes a part of the system, as the prices go down, we can actually see how more and more distribution companies will start being more open to renewable energy. So having said that, on the topic of today, while working in the power sector in India for all these years, one thing was it was in plain sight. There were hardly any women. When I used to visit any of those generation, transmission, or distribution utilities in state, there were limited number. And just to share with you one thing which happened to me when I joined, I was actually not taken seriously in the first 2-3 meetings in a few states, because they just didn't know that women knew anything about finance, because I was doing financial analysis in my first thing. And they used to just, look through me while look to my male colleague and talk. And there was a point when I actually had to say, sir, I have studied and I know what I'm doing. If I'm a woman, it doesn't matter. I'll still take it on. But yes, things have changed. Things are looking up. And one thing which we have tried to do in all our World Bank projects is to mainstream gender in all our projects. And that is something that we have always kept as one of the key things, that when we are developing a new project, how do we make sure that what little bit that we can do in that project to get gender in the mainstream. Looking forward to the discussions today. Thank you, Dinesh.
Thank you, Mani. Yeah, the sector you're working, which is by the name itself is power. I know how center it is, and I also always try to ask you this question. I never asked you before. In terms of your interaction with these states, these the power centers, or how many women secretaries you have dealt with in the power sector in these states, and how many women minister for energies you have dealt with. And I think you will start kind of thinking and maybe using your fingers to count. I think very limited number of interactions you would have had. Right, even at MNRE, having seen them from CASE, the Commission for Additional Source of Energy, way back 35 years ago, till now, I don't think we have seen a women secretary and a women minister for power.
No.
So yeah, but I'm very happy that you have been a part of this journey, and you're taking a lot of leading roles, and you understood how difficult it is to handle the power full sector. So hats off to you in terms of the work that you have been doing so far, and I hope to continue to work with you as we move on. So next, I'm very happy to invite KUMUD WADHWA madam. She's a senior general manager in looking after the National Smart Grid Mission, and she's running the NPMU along with her colleagues. And as I said earlier, I've been working with the, I believe from 2015 to 2017, I've been interacting with her quite frequently. And I was looking at her experience again. If Mani is 12 years, ma'am is 30 years in Power Grid. I was scrolling down the LinkedIn one by one. Okay, let me see another company. No, I went down 1989. She joined Power Grid. Even today, she's at Power Grid. So women in Power Grid, ma'am, actually, that's a wonderful kind of an achievement. I should say you're a leading example. And without much ado, let me request you to share your experience on the topic.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you, Solar Quarters, for giving us this opportunity. In fact, to be honest, when I was invited for this talk, it was difficult for me to come to terms with this gender-specific topic, because maybe I am a sincere believer of that we are all people. So for me, when I am performing at work, it hardly matters whether I am a lady or a person who male colleague is there with me. So, but because I had to do justice to the topic, so I searched few things, and then I prepared what should be discussed for the topic today. And the topic which is given is industry leadership with specific focus on women in renewable energy that are breaking barriers and exploring new frontiers. In fact, if we talk about women breaking barriers, so let me just quote a statement which was given by Martina Navratilova when she was asked, "How do you maintain your focus, physique, and sharp game even at the age of 43? To which she gave a humble reply, "The ball does not know how old I am. You need to stop yourself from stopping yourself. Every game in life is actually played on a 6-inch ground, the space between your 2 ears, that is your mind. And our mind is an unlimited area. In fact, when we are to perform, we are to just control the quality and quantity of our internal dialogue. And performance is always a potential minus internal interference. So we need to break the mental stereos that some jobs are more suited for women or more suited for men. We as women should follow our internal dream career choices with our own passion and equal hard work with the confidence that we will get definitely fair and equal treatment. With this statement, I will just share my experience, which is of, as Dinesh has mentioned, 30 years of experience in power sector. And even prior to that, the attempt when I joined engineering career in engineering college. So the driving force for me to join that engineering career was an attempt for making unique contributions that could help country overcome the use of copy-paste technology for each and every product, which was prevalent in the back as 1980s. There was no original technology in the country. We were just importing technologies and delivering the products based on those patents which we borrowed. My parents, especially my mother, supported my decision. And even after listening to social stigma that girls cannot perform in engineering field. Engineering is not a field where girls should enter. They cannot study, they cannot do well. But I had done complete justice to my studies. I completed my degree with good grades. And the first negative experience that I had was when I was kind of selected after campus placement. I was one of the topmost candidates who was selected by a leading infrastructure company in the country but I was not given the job offer. When I inquired that why I am not given the job offer, they replied, we do not have facilities suited for ladies at our work in place. So that is why we cannot have a lady engineer working in our company, even though she is one of the best selected talent as per the campus interview. But I did not take it to the heart. I grabbed the opportunity when I got this posting in the NTPC that time and Power Grid now in '89. And after completing my training, I really preferred I'll not do the desk work, but I'll go to the actual site where project execution is happening. And I started working at Ballabgarh substation, 400 kV Ballabgarh substation, which is not well connected, which was not well connected to the main city at that time. The road was totally broken and the communication media was not at all available. We had to simply go at 8 o'clock in the morning and maybe sometimes come at 8 without any contact with the external world. So those were the conditions at that time at Ballabgarh substation. But I enjoyed my learning experience there, learned so many project challenges, project implementation challenges, and later on moved to a project management career in after marriage for work-life balance. Thereafter, after marriage, let me be very honest that it was with the support of family and their suggestions at difficult times that I have reached this height. And my company, Power Grid, is also a leading public sector undertaking that gives equal opportunity to women with due consideration to their specific talent. And as regards the contributions in renewable energy are considered, as Dinesh has already mentioned that he has interacted with me way back in 2015. In fact, there was some clean energy target that country had agreed to in Paris, wherein after which we had constituted this India Smart Grid Task Force. That was long back in 2010-11, and the Sam Pitroda sir was the leader who was working for transformation of the grid to support this renewable energy targets. And I was also part of that India Smart Grid Task Force at that time. We prepared the roadmap for smart grids. Smart grids are nothing, the grids that we see today and which are developed into smarter grids by way of implementation of ICT technology for better monitoring and control, so that they can be made flexible to accommodate integration of renewable energy as well, besides serving other purposes like loss reduction and other control purposes. So this is how the Smart Grid Task Force was constituted and we developed the roadmap. I still remember the discussions that were happening those days, that why we should not have this mandatory solar rooftop at each and every household, because India has a huge potential of solar available. When countries like Germany and other such similar countries which do not have abundant solar available throughout the year, they can go for solar in such great capacity. Why should not India have that solar generation also as part of the renewable generation mix or as part of the energy mix in the country? And when we were interacting with regulators, they used to say, yes, we do have solar as mandatory installation for some buildings. But when we dig further into that mandatory solar installations, we found that it was only solar heater energy that was mandated at that time. So that was changed to maybe mandated, say, solar rooftop for buildings which are getting constructed, and it was incorporated in the building norms also after it was adopted as part of the Smart Grid roadmap. And from thereafter, even when we are discussing in the international forums like ISGAN, so there they are having inclusive discussions about promoting clean energy policy that has helped to sensitize the stakeholders that there is some complementary perspective that women bring across the table. And as an individual, I was also inspired by the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg that I recommend for reading to everyone. And as of now, this National Smart Grid Mission is again constituted in 2015 by culminating the India Smart Grid Task Force. And we are supporting Ministry of Power to design and develop smarter grids for India, and also for capacity building of the stakeholders so that they can really get into the smart grid mode. And the smart grid pilots that were conceptualized way back in 2011-12, they had also given, I was also there in the team which prepared the smart grid pilots design, and due consideration was given to renewable integration, distributed generation, so as to study the system impact and the technology challenges that will be there once there is rise in solar and such intermittent generation into the grid. Because obviously I represent the grid sector, which is there to welcome the renewable or clean energy for sustainable growth. So those were the contributions that we had tried to deliver as part of India Smart Grid Task Force and now in National Smart Grid Mission. And as far as my other experiences are concerned, there were certain times when I faced challenges of not networking, but still I could sail through by perseverance, God's blessings, and family support. This was a little introduction of how I spent around 30 years in this power sector and trying to now promote the clean energy resources with support from flexible grids by way of smart grids. Over to Dinesh again.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much. We would love to just continue to hear what you are saying. We don't want to stop you at all. Such a wonderful journey you had. We could visualize, what you said. So that's a great journey you had, and how better it could get, in terms of seeing the entire shift in the power sector working through. And I think definitely would have now never regretted the first decision that the company refused or declined you to join. Because now you are the most celebrated woman expert in the power sector, because you didn't join them actually, because you joined the right institution. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. I will come back to you with some questions. Now let me move to the another interesting personality, Tanya Singhal, who's a founder and director. So I was thinking whether should solar arise or solar rise. So I would leave Tanya to explain that better. And I like the way she expressed her first feeling after going through a lot of difficulties in implementing the first project. So she literally said, I saw the needle going through the meter to my heartbeat. She equated the meter needle to a heartbeat. Such a wonderful kind of a correlation. So over to Tanya.
Thank you, Dinesh. And I would love to mimic that again for you today. But just to give everybody a background, I'm Tanya. I am the founder of Solar Rise. We're an IPP. We develop large-scale solar plants and we supply power to the grid. The plant you see behind me, this is one of our plants. We have plants across India. The day is not far when you guys will switch on lights at your home, and it'll actually be coming from one of our plants, so that's the vision that keeps me running, keeps me driving and going. And I think that's what's the key, for every person, every individual, is that you have to believe in something and then just drive to keep that going. So for me personally, and I thought the best way would be to share my story of how I came into the sector. So like KUMUD ma'am said, I'm an engineer, and right out of IIT, I directly went to BCG. And at BCG, while I did a lot of other things, there was this one project I did where there was a map of India. And on the map of India, we put a very small box and said that if you put solar panels on this small box, that will be sufficient to power the whole of India. I was awestruck. I was like, really? If this can happen, why are coal plants existent? Why don't we just get up and do it? And there came the answer. It needed people to just jump out from their sweet spots of bed and go on and do it. And that's when in 2010, a decade ago, I entered the solar industry, founded Solar Rise, and since then we've been powering homes, So at the end of the day, it's a vision that it's something that drives you to do it. And I don't think it's about man and woman. There is this misnomer that people believe that infrastructure is a man's world. Seriously, I think solar is redefining that the T, not just for solar, but for the whole infrastructure. I have been to sites, I have worn hard hats, I've been to factories. I have a team of 25 people, of which 6 are women. And these are not women in just, they're spread across roles. This is roles of fundraising, finance, data analytics, myself in the leadership position. So the whole spectrum is open. It's just about us breaking those norms and coming and do it. And I think solar is completely changing that philosophy that this is a difficult sector for women. Why is it? And I would love to hear audience opinions and my fellow panelists to say, because sometimes this topic itself is irrelevant because we are equal and all it needs is that thing to go drive and do it. So that's my opening thing on leadership. I know there are we're running out of time, so I'll give it back to you, Dinesh. You're on mute.
So that's yet another speech where I got carried away and I forgot to unmute myself. So literally, it's a short and sweet, but to the point. So just to also counter, we are not talking the topic whether we need this or not. Basically, we are just celebrating the success of all of us, and this is kind of an initiative which I see very few that are happening, because I always believe that the recognition is the best part of the success, right? Because then you try to do more, as you said, the picture at your back. So you want to see, you want us to see more like that. And unless you showcase and I recognize and appreciate, nothing is going to move forward in terms of inspiring you to do more. So I would simply say that it's a celebration event. We are not fighting, we are not arguing, we are not putting our point across. Yeah, so let's just recognize and celebrate and try to focus on what we are doing. So I heard that Megha had to leave. Of course, she was a bit indisposed. So which means that we have kind of 8 more minutes. So let me start with Mani. Mani, I want you to also share more in terms of what you said. So you are so, I think, humble and smart and sharp as always. Try to say only a few things and leave it to us to understand. But if you could elaborate also in terms of how you have been associated, or World Bank has been associated with the gender aspects, and what is the kind of success and the challenges that you or World Bank faced, and also in terms of what is your approach like in terms of enhancing the role of women in the energy sector. So you can couple this question, both the questions, and then try to answer.
How much time do you have?
We have 8 more minutes and 2 more questions to go.
Okay, so 3 minutes.
Don't worry. I have sent the invoice, so I'll give you more time.
Okay, let's get serious now. Okay, as you're aware, the first thing that whenever we need to understand anything, we do a diagnostic study. So World Bank started looking, so as I said, we mainstreamed gender, but we started looking at it as a project maybe 2-3 years back, when we first started doing a diagnostic, and the diagnostic was done for 8 countries. So the countries included were India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Maldives, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. So what we did was we actually did a survey where the sample size was around 100. And we did a survey of all the utilities and the academic institutions to understand the role of women. How many women were there and who were engaged. And we did, after that, we did interviews, we did focus group discussion. What came out of that study was very interesting. First of all, if you see it as an overall average, in the region, 10 to 15% are in the women are in the force, in the labor force in energy. I'm not talking about renewable energy, it's energy as a whole. And out of that, only 3 to 6% have the technical positions. So most of them are in the administrative, not in the technical. And as everyone will understand, as the level increases, as you go towards a leadership position, the number even decreases further. Then we started looking at, okay, they are not reaching the workforce, what's happening at the college level? So we actually did the survey at the college level, where we found out that only, so the range was between 0 to 30, so 0 in Afghanistan, and I think 30% was Bhutan, that women who study in college. So the percentage of students who are women. And if you see the percentage of faculty, it is not more than 21%. And the highest was in Sri Lanka. So if you actually, when you start seeing these numbers and you start analyzing, you understand that people are actually not joining the workforce because they're not even studying towards it, right? So there's not a pool of people you can pick them up from. So where do you start? The question is, how do you make this happen? Another very interesting thing came out of that study. what you normally think is, why don't women enter? Maybe their resources are not there. It's all about resources. They don't have the money, maybe the financial resources. There's something else, but it's not that. I think Tanya mentioned it. It's about the mindset. It's what we came to conclusion was, it's the mindset. They don't see role models. They don't see anyone who's made it there. They don't know how to get there. They see energy sector as a man's world. It's not for the women. So the entire thing was, how do you change the mindset? So then it became different levels. So first you start from school. At the school, what do? You go, you talk to them, you make them hear people who've already there in the, there. And one interesting piece was done by this agency in Pakistan, and World Bank actually partnered with them, when we actually went and reached out to school students to make them understand what are the different roles a woman can play in energy sector. First, what are the different roles, and where you think, if you think women can't fit in, why they can't fit in, and the people who are already doing it. So it's all about awareness. It's all about getting them young, teaching them, making them understand about STEM education. It's the new buzzword, STEM education. And it's required because people are not taking it on, and they should. So once you go to the school, then you go to college. In college, we started partnering with a lot of institutes. Why don't you take internship? Take internship from school, college students, make them work in the solar industry. We've also done a lot of seminars. So all these things are being organized just to catch them young, to make them understand this is an opportunity, it's open for you. And, there are a lot of role models out there to reach them. The next is about recruitment. Now, when recruitment happens, so again, recruitment seminars, try to push a woman is there, try to make them understand that, how she reached there. Basically, a seminar like this, where anyone who's hearing should understand that, okay, women have reached in the energy sector somewhere, and, it can be done. And what really is important in the workplace is also to understand, and I think it was very rightly pointed out by ma'am, that women do play a lot of roles. You cannot just say that, we'll not have any kind of flexibility. Because in one of the seminars that we held, one girl actually, she worked in the IT division in renewable energy. She said when she went on maternity leave, she came back after 6 months. And when she joined back work, she actually, she was clueless because things had changed so much. So the first thing, and it's now a woman may have to go on maternity leave. It's okay. That's the way the cycle runs, right? That's a life cycle. So why don't you have an onboarding program for anyone who's come back from a long maternity leave to get them? So the idea is to have these small things, but they count a lot to retain a person in that. You need them in the workforce. If you get them in the workforce, you need to retain them in the workforce. And therefore, mentoring came out to be a very good example. If a woman is mentored through the different phases in which she goes, and how she can actually contribute to the company, it really helps. And you can actually retain them. So these are the few things that we started doing. Sorry. So that I don't miss out anything, is about building the pipeline of workforce. So it was the students in the school, the colleges, and the agencies. So we have around 21 partners with us, and this is going on strong. The idea was to create a network, and this is all being done under that network, which is called the VPAR. So it has 21 partners where we are working in these countries, trying to create a platform so that the professional growth of women can happen in the energy sector.
Great. Wonderful, Mani. Thank you so much for taking through that. So the survey findings is not just the findings, but it's a reality, right? And many a times you need a mentor. And that's another question, basically. So I want to go back to Tanya and surprise her with this question, like, who was your mentor, in this whole journey?
Thank you, Dinesh. So for every person, you need someone to stand behind you, right? And while it may sound cliched, for me, it was my dad. You know, he has grown me, always bringing by the fact that if you want to do it, do it. You know, I was an engineer. I was a civil engineer. As a civil engineer, if you say first choice, okay, I'm going and doing something very different, the family gets, first of all, they're worried to send a girl as a civil engineer. That is never something ever that came over to me. You know, I come from a family of engineers. It was very well accepted that if she wants to do this, she can do it. And that's the support and the mentorship that, Manish mentioned. The comfort that you can achieve what you want to achieve was always there. And you know, I took radical calls. I was working at BCG. It was a different lifestyle, and from there I said, okay, I want to enter this sector of solar, where at that time solar pricing was 17 rupees a unit. The sector had too much risk, not like we are today, but you know, you didn't know whether it will work or not. At that moment, I had the support to say, "Ja beta ja, kar le," you know, and that's what you need. And so I'm very grateful for that, and thank you for bringing that. But I'm pretty sure part of that is also that I believe that I can do it, you know, and not just that. There've been times where I have been in rooms which have been full of men, and that's fine. You know, I've got my fair share. I've got my voice. It doesn't feel as if it's a different. It's all people around me, right? I would love to have a forum which is more of this, but it's all that's actually where we have to change the mindset of make it more inclusive and not create like that is as if it's a problem that we're trying to solve. And we have to create subtle enabling situations which will make that happen. On the second part that you said in terms of me directly entering leadership, that's partly true because I have gone through multiple chains of this, and Solarize I started only in 2015. So you know, I stepped in, did finance, then I realized, what about part of engineering, started into project management. From there I actually have done a part of procurement. I've actually visited factories in China, seen module manufacturers themselves, audited their lines. So from there now to be in a leadership position where I have a team of 23 people, and out of which, you know, which is a very well balanced team, you know, I've seen different aspects of it. So there is a lot in there.
Great. Thank you so much. So I found out that's your dad, right? So, great. Thank you so much once again, Tanya, for your very interactive response. So it may sound formal, but I really enjoyed your response. Ma'am, over to you. Actually, in terms of what we learned from what you said for the first few minutes, in terms of how you really, I won't say struggle, but you navigated well, and you said you never saw the difference at all. But still, there is a lot to be done in the workplace like yours. So what do you think should be done more to empower women in the workplace and make the environment more inclusive?
First and foremost, I believe that when we want to empower women, there should be equality in thoughts. So that is most critical. And there should be a cultural shift that can be brought in by right up from the stage where family upbringing is happening, wherein as parents, we teach our daughters economic independence so that in future she can have a partner and not a master. And we also teach our son to do household work so that in future he can have a partner and not a servant. So with that upbringing, like Tanya has already pointed out that she was not given any different treatment at home, and her father encouraged her to do whatever she wished to do without any stereos that being a lady, she should choose preferred career or she should not go for engineering. So that kind of upbringing will help. And when we talk about workplaces, there definitely the mentorship role can also play the major significant component in grooming the future leadership. And as I am working for Ministry of Power, we have been lucky that we have seen so many women leaders, though not at secretary level, not in my knowledge, but additional secretary level, Madam Jyoti Arora was there. And I can count number of such women leaders who were there in Ministry of Power and with whom I have had certain interactions during various meetings and have learned so many things from them. So we can have such mentorship for our grooming talent and young women leaders which can take up the role in future. And as World Bank is also doing the right role by figuring out what are the challenges, so similar initiatives can also help. We can have women discussion groups and specific awareness about gender biases in the workplace. With all these enforcement mechanisms or women empowerment initiatives, what I personally feel that there should not be specific reservations for the females, because if we treat women in a different way, so that equality in thoughts may not happen. We are always treated as something which is some people who are different. So better to have equality in thoughts and say settle enabling environment, as Tanya has pointed out. That should be the approach. And when we talk about say flexibility, say because of maternity leave or say childcare leave, that could be a family care leave which should be available for both men as well as women, which is there in many countries globally. So they do not just give maternity leave or childcare leave to a woman. They also give it for the husband also, because at times he may also have to take care of the newborn child or maybe a young child at home. So that kind of mindset will definitely help. That's from my side. Maybe I think time is running short. You can take up.
No problem, ma'am. Thank you once again for your. I would say from the heart. You are speaking from your heart, so I could really see that would definitely make a lot of difference in terms of how women would be inspired by your journey, which you have now carried out so far successfully. And I also request you to keep mentoring more people whom you come across, irrespective of the gender, because I think your journey is an exemplary example for several engineers. And just to let you know, India has the largest number of women engineers, basically. That's the statistics. So you have been one among them. You have led that, basically. You have seeded that, basically, I should say. So that's a wonderful experience. So with that, unfortunately, we had to come to the end of that session. It was a very live session, I should say. And we have kind of definitely 10 minutes kind of behind the schedule, but it was worth it because we heard a lot from a very powerful statement from MEGHA in terms of the humility and the change in the mindset, and to ma'am in terms of how she traveled through the entire 3 decades in the public sector, and then she never found the difference. So that was a big statement, and that's a success for her. And then through Mani, in terms of her classic experience with the World Bank, and in terms of how the survey gave some findings to implement the actual measures. And Tanya, again, the live and the dynamic example of how a leader can start as a leader, and then still maintain it, and then try to progress and have a vision. And then she said that you have a vision and you have the belief, you dream to achieve it, and you achieve it one day. So all are very powerful messages, but we have to kind of switch to the next session. So as agreed with the organizers, first let me formally thank each one of you, ma'am, KUMUD ma'am, Tanya, MEGHA, and Mani, for a wonderful session. And I would request you to stay back because we have 4 more personalities coming into the next session. So you will also be enjoying that session too. So please continue to stay back. And I would like to now give it to the organizers if they're ready with their poll. Over to Sangeeta.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. I would like to thank all the speaker panelists. Your leadership views have surely inspired young girls and women to move forward across different segments in clean energy. With this, I would be quickly launching the first poll. Can I have the first poll, please?
No, Tanya, you cannot vote.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was not able to vote.
We know the answer anyway. Right.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. The answer is well known anyway. But we are doing good. 33% is not bad. So I think we are there.
Can I request to stop the poll and share the results, please?
So do we have the second question, or we are ready to go?
Yes. Can we have the second question, please?
So maybe Tanya, we can try to influence the poll. You can say something on this as people are voting for it.
Well, in terms of opportunities, I will say, what more do you want? You have things starting from engineering, procurement, finance, fundraising, audit, accounting. You name a branch, you'd have it here. You tell me what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Opportunities are there, plenty. Absolutely. Great. We have influenced the results. Right. One more, or we are good?
Yes, one last poll.
Okay.
That's a tricky one.
The last one is so scary. Cannot be faster. Who can say that? Who will say that? Let me check. Right. Good. Should be faster. Yeah. Of course. It's not enough. We said that anyway. Great. So Sangeeta, I take it as yes now to that
yes,
the poll is closed.
Yes, sir. Please, can you please take it forward? Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, organizers, for that poll. That's relevant questions. Good, interesting answers as well. So now we move to the second session, and it's quite close to my heart because I was working in IRIDA. I started my career in IRIDA basically way back in 1994, and then after 3.5 years, I resigned and started my own business. It was a job with pension, and so 1994 I joined IRIDA and got married in 1995 only because I got a government job. But I resigned. My in-laws were very upset. But I started my own venture along with 2 other partners. So becoming an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, and exiting as an entrepreneur, I have gone through all the 3 aspects of it. And we have 4, again, illuminating speakers, excellent speakers who have gone through this a lot, and also trying to mentor a lot of youngsters as we speak. So those 4 speakers are Ms. Kanika Khanna, CEO of Sankalp, Dr. Rashi Gupta. I believe she wants to call herself as Battery. I'd like to learn more about that. And then Vaishali Nigam Sinha and Dr. Shweta Tripathi, Global Head Knowledge of Ensign Group. I think Vaishali ma'am, I think she has just joined. If I'm right, I think she's already in the meeting. If I understand, so she's also joining us from Renewable Power. So we have very good kind of speakers now, and they have been quite patient for the past 1 hour plus, hearing the first session. They have a lot to say. So there are 3 aspects of this session has been given in the agenda in terms of how the ecosystem has to be built, and what is the vision in terms of getting more opportunities, and also in terms of converting all the paper things, the theory into reality. What are the challenges the entrepreneurs have to overcome to achieve the success? So these are kind of the opening themes, and I now open the session by requesting Kanika Khanna, the CEO of Sankalp Energy, to share her views. It could be your experience, suggestions, anything that comes to your mind, if you would like to share with the audience, please.
Thank
Kanika.
you. Absolutely. Thank you. As a background, I have been in the renewable energy sector now since 2012. And prior to that, I've been a manufacturing engineer. So everything from being the one of three girls in the mechanical and industrial engineering department to being the only female in a on the shop floor. I have kind of experienced it, and like many of the ladies on the panel today, I'm sure they have as well. So it's been a very interesting journey. To your first question on building an ecosystem for women entrepreneurship, I want to tell two stories. Firstly, how I decided to become an engineer. When I was 14 years old, and I remember the day very, very clearly, my mother just showed me an article. It was an extremely smartly dressed woman carrying a briefcase, and the title of the article was More Women Taking Up Engineering. And at that, now I realize that the image in the article was very wrongly representative, but that is kind of what inspired me. So I mean, looking back, the power of stories is extremely important, right? This was one story which talked about more and more women taking up engineering and how it was a matter of pride. And my young impressionable mind decided then and there, this is what I want to do, this is a great thing to do. So that's where the journey started. And then the second story I want to tell is, so I, as an entrepreneur, you have to go from client to client to sell something, right? And clients would ask me the weirdest questions. One customer asked me that जब तुम्हारी शादी हो जाएगी तब हमारे सोलर प्लांट का क्या होगा. Hilarious. Even after I get married, I'm pretty sure your solar plant will get maintained. And then another client asked me that, but tum to ladki ho. So it has been so interesting, so enriching. But the counter story to that is that every time I would go to an organization where the leadership was female, the attitude was completely different. There you would be genuinely judged on merit. It was completely genderless. So basically on these two stories, I want to say that the two ways to build an ecosystem is more female leaders will result in more female employees, and more female leaders will result in more female leaders. It's just a virtuous cycle that will build up on itself. And when I was a bit younger, I would probably feel very embarrassed to be a part of something like women in renewable energy, because the moment we attach a gender tag to it, I was extremely rebellious. Why can't it be people in renewable energy? I would fight. But today I genuinely value this. I personally make a lot of effort to voice myself wherever I can, because with just the hope that maybe some young girl will hear me, maybe some young girl will get inspired just the way that one article inspired me many years ago. So yeah, that in my opinion, we need to have more heroines. We have enough heroes, right? Men probably will see articles all the time about male engineers or men in space, but we need to tell more stories. And I think what First View is doing with this prize in that way, it is extremely extremely important. And the other thing is that more women leaders, just like Tanya mentioned, she has what, 6 women. I am happy to say that we also in our organization at one point had a 50% representation from both genders. So those are the two things I wanted to share in terms of how to build an ecosystem.
Great, Kanika. Wonderful story, I should say, and I'm sure it will inspire many of them. Yeah, enough. We have said about heroes, so now we know we need more heroines. Basically, that's true. That's a wonderful statement, I would say. And yeah, it's at the same time, it is also very important to showcase it, right? So, being a leader will produce more leaders. That's again a powerful statement. But also, like, not everybody could become leaders, so they have to start somewhere. So there has to be a lot of opportunities built around, and if you can't work, then you give work, right? And that's how the leadership is born. So excellent, Kanika. Thank you so much for sharing those initial views. Now let me move to Dr. Rashi Gupta, Director, Vision Electronics. And I can see her. She was very intently kind of watching all the speakers sharing their opinions, and I think she has her story on her own. It is really wonderful to see you, ma'am, in terms of being in a unique space as it goes. And then we would like to hear from you how you feel, of course, your experience, but at the same time, how you feel that the sector should have more women power in the battery and the energy storage space. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank Solar Quarter, First View Media, who has taken up such a nice initiative on gender equality. With me, when I started off, the first challenge that came to me was that women cannot do any technical designs. You know, in the middle of one of the symposiums where this was a challenge, I just took it up head on and I said, nothing doing. I mean, women can do everything that is possible here. I mean, it is not that only men can do great designs in engineering. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have a Master's of Business Administration, an LLB and an LLM and a PhD. And I mean, you tell me that I can't do things, it's not acceptable at all. And that was the time when I started way back in 2009. And I was like, there's no looking back after that. We are also into niche robotics when we do a lot of nuclear robotics projects. And from there, I just felt that enough of robotics. I mean, the plate was full and the brains would rust. So I needed something more to be more exciting for me. And that's when I took up energy storage, because that was something very niche. And I've always been a niche player into the market. It has not been, I don't like to be the masses. I'm always in a different niche space. So that's where I tried to be in energy storage. And one thing that I implemented, and I appreciate what Kanika also said, is that they had a 50% representation. So in my company, I've managed, and thankfully, and I hope I can continue to manage a 50% representation at all levels. And one fundamental thing that I'd like to highlight here, that as soon as we changed all the key positions with women leaderships, there was a complete transformation in the company that I could see. We have grown multifolds. And we have got a lot of support from all these pillars, you know, at each and every key position that I've seen. Something that I've seen, another thing is that women lack confidence sometimes. I don't know why, because as an engineering student or at the college level, at whichever degree you are doing, you are equally imparted the same kind of education. Then why do you lack confidence in your own capabilities? So it is very important that each girl who is coming out of this college, coming into this space of any kind of work they're doing, I mean, not just clean energy. Clean energy, of course, requires more kind of knowledge and skill set, but then you are quite capable of doing it. You should not be scared. You should not feel that you're less competent than any other person in the room. So just that confidence, a little boost of confidence to these young girls, I've seen that they have performed fantastic. I mean, the transformation of these women was very nice. I mean, and I loved that change in them. So we all need to break that glass ceiling. And in 2015, when I did that, I was given the name Battery Valley. In 2015, we were the pioneers in India with smart IoT-based, active balancing-based batteries, which nobody would have even thought of. Even today, we are way ahead of time in terms of active balancing is concerned for lithium-ion batteries. And that's the reason for my work that I have. People started calling me Battery Valley of India, and that is something that I've earned out of the work I have done for the country. Another thing that I would like to highlight is that women are not taken seriously, which was also in the previous panel being discussed. And we need to understand that women have to be taken very seriously. And we get to learn a lot of things from our homes. And for me, it was my mother who actually pushed me beyond this limit and said that, no, you're free to go and do whatever you want to. And when I was getting into the energy storage space, everybody called me a fool. Everybody said that you are betting your money on you're going to lose all your money. And it was a bootstrap stuff. I mean, still I'm bootstrapped. So I was like, it's my money. I will take a chance on this and let me go ahead with this challenge. And I'm sure, and everybody knows where I am today and what we all are doing in the energy storage and energy space is And we all have been pretty successful in that. So it's just that you have to believe in your vision. You have to be sure, okay, whatever you're doing, there's always an inner voice which guides you. So you should always listen to that inner voice and go ahead with it. And definitely you will be rocking the whole stage for sure. And women have a lot of capabilities. They have, and they just have to overcome that initial barrier, which they have it in their own mindset, their own minds. Once you are out of that barriers, it is sky is the limit. You can achieve anything. Over to you, Dinesh.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Again, powerful words, ma'am. Actually, the mindset, it's continuing from the session one, and I can see the live example in you, and how you're still kind of keeping that vision. Again, what Tanya said, you are another example, living example in terms of sticking to what you thought would make the change, and it is definitely making a big change in the current energy market. So all the very best to your venture, ma'am, and thank you so much for sharing that. And I believe a lot of youngsters would really get inspired by your motivating words. Now we are moving to Vaishali Nigam Sinha, ma'am. Actually, she's a Chief CSR Communications and Sustainability Officer, Renew Power. But I would also like to introduce her in terms of leading and founding iCharity. Ma'am has been all over the place in New York, London, in all the financial markets, and then end of the day, she thought that the iCharity is another venture. Before I think it was after Savan, if I'm right, ma'am. So it is a wonderful journey for her to share with us, and I always love to hear from you, ma'am, in terms of your views. How do you think the entrepreneurial ambitions for the women today could be achieved? Over to you, ma'am. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. That's the problem with Zoom. You never know when you are actually safer when you're on mute, but when you're not on mute and you think you're on mute, that's a big problem, right? So, listen, first of all, I was just thanking all of you, Solar Quarter, for inviting me and for organizing this session. And, as some of the women earlier on this session have mentioned that, ability to communicate success stories and is extremely important. We do believe that there are not that many women doing great things. The reality is that there are a ton of women doing great things, fantastic things, but I don't think they get enough attention. So, congratulations to Solar Quarter for organizing these sessions, where I hope you can amplify this and showcase the stories of, various people who are here. As far as entrepreneurship is concerned, let me tell you that I've also, given that this is a renewable energy platform, observed entrepreneurship in close quarters as far as a renewable energy venture is concerned, which is Renew Power, where I have been a part of the founding team and have seen the company grow from, nobody to a couple of people to now about 1,200 people, with, presence across the country and so on and so forth. And in this journey, I must confess, unlike, the previous speakers who spoke, I can't boast of being able to have a 50-50 gender ratio in my company. And let me tell you that having women who are leading entities counts for a lot, whether it is in an entrepreneurial venture, whether it is in the government as a minister, as a policy head, or even an IAS officer or a district collector. Having a woman there who's sensitive to this gender issue, which we are all talking about, makes a huge difference, right? And I'd like to say that I see a bit of it, that there are some men who care about this issue as well. And I really appreciate those men out there who and you know what? A lot of these men have a spouse who is made of what we're talking about, you should be made of, or daughters who set the father's right to walk the talk and do things which are required. And so the point I'm making is that it's this whole social sort of ecosystem, whether it is a strong, determined mother who helps a girl believe in herself, right? It's ironical that when we go to school, we always have girls outperforming males. I don't know if that's changed, but when I went to school, it was always the case. Girls were more merit listers, getting into the, good medical schools, engineering, whatever there was, right? They did off very well. But you know what? The confidence with which girls step out of these educational institutions in high school, in engineering colleges, is not as high as boys step out of these institutions. They walk around with so much more confidence. And having that confidence and having that sense of self-belief that, you know what, if I set my mind on something, I will do it. Come what may, I will do it. And you need that you need that spirit to be an entrepreneur, because if you don't have that spirit, you'll not be able to do it, because you don't have the support of a, of 100-year-old established organization which is going to give you another chance. So you as an entrepreneur, you need to have that self-belief and that gut and that ability to be positive through challenges and through obstacles. Unfortunately, women are not raised often. Few women are, and they land up on these panels as we see them. But many women who are very smart just disappear because nobody believes in them. And you know what? As they say that, we have to do what we want to for ourselves. We don't have to wait others to do things for us. Because if we wait for others to do things for us, we will miss the bus, right? So, I mean, on entrepreneurship, I would say that self-belief and that confidence is very important. I would urge any parent who's on this sort of in the audience to instill that in girls, to give them that reinforcement. If a girl comes back and says, you know what, I came first in class, you'll have a grandmother or somebody sitting there and saying, acha, theek hai. Right? You have the same sibling brother who comes and says, you know what, I came fourth in class. Arey wah, beta, kya shabashi denge. That's the culture. Unfortunately, we grow up, and it may sound, funny right now, but it's awfully sad because you're killing that, and the girl is watching that, So you can imagine what's going on. So anyway, there's a psychological aspect of this as well. But what I want to say to some of the women on this call, that, in the renewable energy space, there are a ton of opportunities for women. We see some of them here on the policy front, on the legal front, on the finance front, on the site. I'm interviewing a woman who went scuba diving for Schlumberger, oil rigs, in the oil rigs. Amazing. I'll hire her for nothing but just doing that. Because if she can do that, she can do anything, right? And she's doing that in a foreign country with a minority presence of women there. Means she obviously has a sense of belief, confidence, and that bravado which is required to be successful in life. So I'm sure somebody helped her believe that she can do that, and she herself. So you know what? Women need to believe in themselves first. They need to understand that the ecosystem is not prepared to give them that support. That should be their base assumption. And they have to go in with that fighting spirit. I tell that to my daughter. My daughter just graduated this year from Wellesley College, which is a very fine, women's undergrad institution in the United States. And I told her that, you know what, you're going to be an extremely unhappy person if you think that the rest of the world, she's going to be a banker in New York, is going to be like Wellesley was. Because you know what, you're going to fight the real battles as you step out. People will not understand gender parity. People will not understand equality. People will not understand fairness. And you don't have to get deterred by it. You have to go and fight your own battles. Unfortunately, if we don't do that, we're not going to get there. I'll pause here. I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Yu.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, again, we would love to hear you continuously speaking, because that's a voice of success, and also inspiring a lot of people. And the way you kind of took the decision to hire that scuba diving woman that's a confidence building exercise that would inspire many. And we see very limited kind of experience being showcased. That's another valid point you said. Okay, a lot of things are happening. Tons of women are working in various fields that even we cannot even imagine, but it is not showcased and kind of recognized. We don't need any applause here for that, but what we need is a recognition. That's a very valid point. Which
I just want to add one more point. Here, I also see it's very unfortunate, given that we're talking about the series of unfortunate things which happen, that, the world has gotten used to. I'm not sure if I should be saying this, but I'll say it nevertheless, that the world has got used to accepting men who perform below a woman's performance, and they're okay with that. But, for example, if I want to get a woman on a board, I will be looking for that woman who's outstanding, who's the best, who's the best, who's the best, and better than the best. But to bring on a male member, I don't see that stringency. It seems like if you want to get a woman on a board, she has to be superhuman to get her on board. Why? There's so many other men who are there who are just about a little bit better than average, and we are okay with that. So that mindset at the top needs changing too.
Absolutely. Yeah, valid point, man. Valid point. So let's now move to the next speaker also, Dr. Shweta Tripathi, who's a global head of knowledge at Ensign Group. Ensign is not new to me, Dr. Shweta. I know Uma quite well. We work together in Terry as well. And I believe she also is featuring in this edition as well. So thank you so much for your patience. And since you're heading the knowledge group, I think you'll be the torchbearer of all the knowledge in terms of what is happening in Ensign, especially your UK operations and what you do in India, in Bangalore. I'm not sure whether you are based out of Bangalore. So that's my second home. My sister lives there. So wonderful to have you on the panel. Please share your views, suggestions, and any advice to the audience on the topic.
Good evening all. Thank you, Dinesh, and very good evening all. It's been quite overwhelming to hear so many wonderful women, and trust me, it has been a very happy afternoon for me, seeing so many women on a single platform, where earlier it used to be good afternoon, gentlemen, and Dr. Tripathi. So these voices that I've been hearing, trust me, that didn't require any patience. It was really nice to hear everyone's experience and how forcefully women are coming out and speaking about it. And more importantly, all of us here trying to make a change in this sector. Really a pleasing afternoon. So thank you all the speakers before me and Dinesh. Working in the energy sector at Ensign, for those who don't know Ensign, we are a multinational working across almost 26 countries. We have offices in 8 places, and we have worked with energy utilities, roughly about 300 plus utilities. So we are not just in the solar and renewable energy space, we are also into energy efficiency and liberating energy inefficiencies, wherein we have achieved a target of about 900 million USD worth of energy efficiencies liberation, energy inefficiencies liberation. You mentioned Uma, who has also featured in this list. She has been very proactive in doing renewable energy projects in India. We have taken a lot of renewable energy projects across the globe. We have been instrumental in energy efficiency projects, hybrids across. Now, satisfying is the fact that this work has really brought smiles to people across the globe, be it somewhere as remote as a small habitat in villages of Karnataka and Odisha, or being it South America, or being it many parts of Europe. When you install a wind solar hybrid or renewable energy generation project, and people see the bulb light up for the first time, the happiness it gives you is really incredible. That smile just stays in your mind forever. So that really is a great, experience that we get in this sector. Unfortunately, not many women get to feel that happiness, their work spreads in the world. And I really feel that women, as Vaishali was saying, there are women, when you see schools, mostly you will see the batch topper to be a woman. People say they mug up things and become the expert in the class, but when it comes to real life, it is always the men that are doing everything. And that's something which I have a really big problem with, because really it is somewhere between school to when you come to working. There is so much of societal pressure on a woman. Kab shadi karegi? When will she get married? For the audience who are not from India, I'm sorry if I switch to Hindi once in a while. It's the it's narrating the real life experiences in the native language. So, kab shadi hogi? When will you get married? Aren't you living with your husband? Which is something which I experienced for a very long span of time when I was in a different continent. My husband chose to be in a different continent. We were perfectly fine with that, but the world was not. And the amount of pressure we had on why don't you people live together? Is everything okay between you guys? Nobody realized that we wanted our mutual career to grow. I, at this point, would definitely want to highlight the contribution of some men who really support the women. Typically, I have seen in women-oriented conferences, we forget that there are some men who are continuously supporting us. And some of us who managed to reach where we are, there are fathers, brothers, husbands, uncles who have supported us. So thank you to them as well, because this is a cruel society where women are definitely pulled back by most of the people. But then there are some who fight on our behalf. Unfortunately, it's taking fighting on our behalf along with our own fighting to get us where we are. So it's been an interesting journey in the solar, not just in the solar sector, the entire energy sector. And I believe now with the situation when everything is changing very fast, the energy sector itself is changing very, very fast. We have to adopt innovation. We have to, change our mindsets. And one of the fact of life is that the entire energy sector is suffering, a shortage in the skilled people. At that point of time, we really cannot afford to ignore 50% of the talent pool that the human race has to offer. And it is really important to recognize that women have the potential. It is just a society that needs to give them the platform where they can come at an equal caliber and showcase their talents at an equal caliber. We need to have this. With that, I should stop now and give it to you, Dinesh. I'm sorry, I got carried away.
No. It's very, very relevant and very pertinent. I could see a lot of nodding happening in the panel as well, Dr. Shweta.
Thank you.
So I won't call you Dr. Tripathi, don't worry.
Thank you.
I will call you Dr. Shweta. So, but the journey is quite, again, rewarding, right? Once you sit back and then see, as you started recognizing the men in your world, but you also see what it takes for you to now spread that across the community, and how even men should be inspired to mentor more women. I think that is also another point well said by you. The personal life, yes, that would definitely make an impact. Each one of you, I'm hearing different stories, but they're all inspiring as such. So at end of the day, you really want to see how much, not how much recognition you got, but how much rewards it has given to the stakeholders, and that's where you see feel the sense of satisfaction. So thank you so much for sharing your views. Now I have a few questions for all four of you, if you have some time to spend and then share additional views. I would like to pick Dr. Shweta again straight away to give you the opportunity to speak first in terms of giving the response. In terms of, do you see a change in women participation in the RE sector over the span of years, your work? Have you seen this change in the way you wanted, or how it changed, or it never changed? And what do you think are the key drivers for this change should be?
Thanks, Dinesh. Of course, there has been a change in the RE sector. There were times when, as I said, we used to be the only women in a conference room where it was all men, and you sitting in a corner, not being noticed, not being heard, ignored, many times as if, oh, ye to, she's a woman, what will she say of relevance? She doesn't even know the realities of the ground. She doesn't know the field work, etc. So these have been the state of affairs. And from that, we have come to a point where we have we don't get that feeling of, madam, you have come again. You should be, sending more men who can go on the field and do the work. So that has changed. Even in terms of the workforce, Ensign itself, somewhere from the beginning, we started in 2006. Since then, we have been growing the task force, and we have reached about 30% women in the 4,000 odd people we have. So that is decent enough number, if not 50% women, I feel. And that has come with a conscious thought process of instilling into every single BU, what is your gender ratio? How many women are working in your team? These are the things we have consciously been promoting and seen, and that has helped. Another thing is, creating a work environment where women are completely comfortable, are totally respected. So we try to instill in the culture itself that notice who is there in the conference room and address everybody, so that there is no one who feels that, oh, I am a woman, I'm lost out and nobody is going to hear me out. So that is something we have been pushing and trying to achieve, and I hope happens more and more. The thing is, as I said, it's a crossroads where innovation is happening. Renewable energy itself is taking a significant part of the energy mix now. And thankfully, renewable energy sector being relatively new compared to traditional conventional power generation sector, where unfortunately the old boys club culture has, become really, pertinent. Renewable energy sector has a relatively more open mindset, and people are more, cognizant of the presence of women, their capabilities in technology, their understanding of needs of the, societies in terms of energy consumption. I mean, in energy sector, 50% of the consumers are females. We just cannot go forward without, understanding the mindset of that 50% of the consumers and just thinking about the convenience of men. So much needed, more women participation is absolutely the need of the hour. But I feel that the things have been improving for the better, and I seriously pray and hope that it becomes much faster, the change, as that is happening in the innovation space and energy sector. Another good thing is, now that we are innovating, everything's going digital, everything is going towards robotics, and we are having a completely transformed energy sector in which women can play a very important role. Some of the concerns that I hear is going to the field and finding out things can be done only by men because it's unsafe for the women. Now, that is an unfortunate reality in some of the not so developed places. And we need to be cognizant of the fact that women need protection in certain spaces, even though we would hate that part where women are more vulnerable, it is there. Thanks to the digital innovation, people can get data safely in their control rooms. People can get access to information remotely, and that has really helped. The use of robotics can get data available remotely, and more women can contribute through that. And these are things which are definitely leading to the change in the sector. So I am very hopeful, very optimistic, and I hope everybody agrees with me in this. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. It's a wonderful response, Dr. Shweta. Thank you so much. Now I'm moving to Vaishali ma'am with a question. In terms of again, it's a stereotype question, so pardon me if you don't like this question, but you have to answer this. In terms of the glass ceiling, the so-called glass ceiling, do you believe it still exists in the energy and the sustainability business? And could you share your experience in terms of how you broke it? You have to unmute again. Sorry.
Thank you. So I'd like to break this down into two parts. The glass ceiling is not any more or less at the senior level. The glass ceiling, is there generally speaking for women. There are very few organizations which are very focused. Like if you look at some of the HULs of the world who are like targeting, 50% equal men, women, equal ratio, all the way to the top, mentorship and so many other things. And honestly, they are role models for all of us, all the sectors, the sunrise sectors, etc. So I would not say that the glass ceiling is any, kind of more severe, but the fact is at the bottom of the pyramid, if you see that there aren't as many women who believe and understand that there are a lot of opportunities for them in the renewable space, so that myth needs to be busted, right? Because as I said in the beginning of my conversation, Dr. Sweta mentioned it as well. There are ample opportunities for women. I mean, renewable energy in a way is like, AI, digitalization, policy. And, you have so many women who are fully capable to do this better than anybody else in this world. So I think companies need to go out there and aggressively sort of market these opportunities out there, to engineering schools, to business schools. I don't think there is a misinformation sort of or an information gap which exists at the bottom of the pyramid. Obviously, once you suck in the talent at the bottom, you can then groom them to go up, and then hence there is an opportunity for us to come bring in a more diverse set of leadership in the organization, which is very important. As we all know, that women bring in all the required qualities which are being rated as the top qualities for CEOs to have. I'm sure we've read those surveys, right? So as we speak now, I would say, just to answer your question, that because we need to bring in more women at the bottom, at the middle, and then we will, once we are doing that, which means at a senior level, we have that mindset for a more inclusive mindset, for a more diversity driven mindset. You will see that at the top also. And so maybe you compare with the best. Yes, renewable energy doesn't have that much of presence in the top. But if you look at a lot of other infra companies, there's not any different. We're a very young sector, so unless you're a founder, like we see some of the founders here, it's not like that. There hasn't been that much time for people to rise up. I hope to see many more women who can believe that they can get into the space of energy from various points of view, whether it is digitalization, whether it is any other supply chain sort of areas where women can contribute to. So there are lots of opportunities. So I'd invite women to think about entrepreneurship, and for the women present here and all the other women who've been recognized to also voluntarily spend some time, talking about opportunities, mentoring some of these other very smart women who are there and making them aware of the opportunities. And hopefully we'll be able to create a lot more opportunities. Just one last point, and I'm sorry, I have a hard stop in about 5 minutes, but I just wanted to say that one thing all of us need to do, especially the CEOs and the top management, that we really, there's a huge list of things we need to do, like, have a family support system, have a company which is supportive, and there's a long list, right? But we really need to be sensitive to women who work so hard from high school to engineering or undergrad to postgrad, and get into the best jobs and everything. But somewhere in the middle, they start falling off. I think that's the biggest impediment for women to continuously excel. And there's far too much pressure on them to handle. As you mentioned, you really realize how much work your wife really does, right? And she works at home, she's doing these Zoom calls, and then she's taking care of the home and the family and the in-laws, and the list is long. We need to be sensitive. We need to, as organizations, as spouses, as parents, as in-laws, we need to be supportive. And as I said, that women need to ensure that they are able to garner this support. It's the duty is the obligation is ours to ensure that we are able to communicate with these stakeholders as we do in business and engage them and get them to own our journeys. Because once
Right.
they own our journeys, they are going to then wholeheartedly support us, because we are not the women who were, present at home 50 years ago, where the only job we had was to look after families, which is an amazing job. I have so much respect for that role, but now we are doing other things. So we need more people to share our journey. So I request all the women out there to serve themselves by doing that. And if you're not able to convince a spouse or an ecosystem of family or your bosses, etc., to understand your issues and challenges, you won't be able to get far ahead in the ladder. So I'd like to wish all the young entrepreneurs the very best. I want to tell them that there's huge amount of opportunity in the renewable energy space. Come talk to us offline, one-on-one. I'll be happy to mentor. I'm sure there are many other mentors in this series. And yeah, just go and grab these opportunities. And I think this sector is growing humongously. I think renewables and climate, I mean, broadly speaking, there's tons to do. And it feeds into the narrative of what women are good at doing, if I may sound a little stereotypical. So do research this space, do reach out to mentors, and just, get out there.
Great. A wonderful, wonderful response. And thank you so much for your time. It's been always a pleasure to
May I, with your permission and the permission of the panelists, please exit? I had a call at 5:15. I need to join.
Sure, man. Thank you so much.
I'd love to stay on till the end, but apologies. But thank you. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye. So now let's move on to the next question. And this is to Dr. Rashi Gupta. In terms of the sector, you said, of course, energy storage is a kind of a niche sector, is a unique sector. But having said that, how do you see women getting involved? Because we heard Kanika talking about her experience in solar, in terms of how the market was not able to see with that much of a comfort when she started her business. But now things have changed. But battery is still evolving. So how do you see women's role in this sector?
I still see the role of women is missing as yet. We have to ensure that we get more women on board, and not just at the leadership levels, but even at the lower levels and the middle management levels. We need more women out there. I would love to reach out to colleges, engineering colleges and schools, and we have to imbibe this right from the beginning, that if you are in a technical field, you are supposed to continue with that field. Don't leave it halfway in between. And it is not difficult to be in this sector. It's easy. And you, when you have a confidence in yourself and when you're sure of your technical knowledge, you can achieve it. And energy storage, by and large, is a very lovely, nice space to be in. You are empowering yourself first with the storage that you have, first in terms of energy, which is not just the battery, but even the energy that you have in you as a person. And then you will be empowering all the others who come in contact of yours, whether they are men, women, children, anybody. I mean, with that, you're empowering one person's life. You are not just giving light to the person with the help of the energy storage with the terms of batteries or, solar power, but you're even enlightening their lives. And it's only women who can do it. And let's first empower ourselves as women with a lot of storage that we have kept in ourselves, and now it's time to bring it out, and then empower everyone around us. And we all can certainly achieve it, to make ourselves completely independent with energy. That's all I say.
Excellent, ma'am. Excellent. I'm really becoming a big fan of yours. And we missed a big auditorium here, to hear the claps or the kind of appreciation that you're talking about, the energy storage, energy stored in women, right? So that's a different topic altogether, but you're triggering that. It's a wonderful response. I am so happy to have you on the panel. Kanika, don't be kind of angry with me that I'm coming to you last. But the point was just to hear them building towards the question, because you're going to have the last laugh of this panel. Basically, you're going to answer the last question. So in terms of your journey, right? So you explained your journey in terms of how people were looking at you, some perceptions, some realities, hard checks and balances. But now definitely you're successful. Maybe you need more to get yourself to that level of satisfaction, but you're still progressing. You're still giving opportunities. So what would you, what you're doing and what you would like to do to bring more youngsters like you into this space? And if you have any specific initiative that you'd like to share with us, that would be great.
Actually, Dinesh, before that, can I answer or just pick up on a point that Dr.
Sure.
Gupta brought in her previous, yeah.
Sure,
So
please.
you made a very important point, actually, Dr. Gupta, that you feel that women are less confident, right? You mentioned that. So I would like to share my perspective on this. I feel we were all born confident, right? Women were probably born just as equally confident as men. But so another story that I have, for example, this has happened to me more than 3 or 4 times. I've been at a conference and I've handed out my visiting card, which clearly says founding director, to people. And before I was married, they would say, "Ye aapke papa ki company hai? Is this your dad's company?" And now they ask me, "Is this your husband's company?" So that's an example, right? Then there's another example where people ask, "Are you sure you'll be able to do this?" So my point here is that we are all born confident. It is a society which creates doubts. So this is just my request to everybody out here. If you hear comments like this, please counter them. And women, if you hear comments like this, I'm pretty sure everyone here has, right? I have got addressed as Mr. Khanna so many times that it's not even funny anymore. So please, so if you hear this, please counter this. If you hear someone, whether a man or a woman, tearing down another woman, please stop it right there. Counter it, question it. We do it unwittingly sometimes. And one second point that I wanted to make while I was hearing that men and women don't realize that there are opportunities out there. But now, if we've seen a construction site, right, a normal high-rise buildings construction site, you will notice that the laborers are equal parts men and women. So where there is a raw requirement to earn a livelihood, their gender and enablement and all of those things kind of go away. So we can observe that and see that women are just as capable as bringing bread to the table. So the privilege somehow comes with some sort of shackles. It is, in my experience, more at the educated level that women are falling off the workforce. Women from the less privileged backgrounds, they don't face this struggle of rejoining after maternity leave. The men and women, I mean, there are other issues in that segment. But my point here is that with the privilege, there is some systematic issue in society which needs to kind of be addressed, and that can only be addressed that we every time we see it, we call it out. We don't stay silent, we call it out, we habitually call it out. I'm sorry I digressed from the question you had mentioned, Dinesh, but I felt that it was important to put these things out. But to your other point, that if I'm taking any special initiatives to include women in the workforce, I am biased. If I see a man and a woman of the same kind of experience level, I am going to hire the woman. I'm sorry, world, but that's the way it is. That's kind of, there's no specific steps that I take, but it is just my screening criteria. And that's really all that I have to share.
No, sure. No, I think that comes again from the heart and your experience. So I respect that response. So it's a very good kind of analogy you're bringing in. You are relating to what happened to you. That's how the audience will also like to relate in terms of how it is going to be beneficial to you. And yeah, it's like born confidence is one issue, and then retaining it and sustaining it and then growing it and progressing based on that is another, right? And that's why you're talking about opportunities, and you're talking about recognition, you're talking about moving forward, mentoring. There are so many things that a woman need, But having said that, I still remember what Vaishali ma'am said, that you can't just like that leave it. You have to really be with it and then try to grow with it, and then be bold in terms of how you want to be. Because if you don't have confidence, then who else is going to really help you? And what the help you will get, it's not going to be of any
Yeah,
good.
for entrepreneurship, confidence is the single most
Absolutely.
important thing for entrepreneurship.
Very, very true. On that matter, actually, shame on me, because I left entrepreneurship 15 years ago because I lost confidence in the system. That's a separate story for another day. But I love the confidence that you have, and this topic has been really an eye opener for everyone, I believe. The first panel was very strong in terms of leadership, but again, I saw a kind of percolating those kind of sentiments here as well, because each one of you agreed that if there is a leadership, that is going to make a hell of a lot of difference in the entire community of women, right? And doesn't matter also that whether you have 50% or less than 50 or more than 50 or 100%, but the leadership is going to make a lot of influence. That was my kind of a closing point. So with the permission of the organizers, let me now very formally thank you, each one of you. It may sound very formal, but I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm getting already the WhatsApp messages from my network saying that it was a wonderful session, and they have not been hearing such sessions so far, because it has been very technical, right? And this one is kind of talking from the heart, and that's what I said to many of you, that you're not talking about anything technical here in terms of positive, negative, and the battery technologies or anything, but you're talking from the heart in terms of the experience, and the audience would immediately relate to what they are trying to do now. And today's world, where the physical interaction is very much limited, I would very strongly urge each one of you to kind of reach out to people. I kind of welcome Vaishali ma'am's open invitation like that. You also should openly invite the other youngsters and other people to kind of interact with you. And I also request Solar Quarter to continue this initiative. You can open a blog, or you can open some kind of an initiative where this 140 women who have been recognized in the first edition could continue to kind of share their stories, experience, blogging, any kind of initiative that you are launching. You can post it there so that other women can really take it up. And also, as an information from standing under the program, Suprabha, we are also working with MNRE. You know about RE Invest, but we don't know the mode it would happen. But we were planning to launch RE Women in a big way, and that is taking its shape. MEGHA is working on that. So if there's any update, I'll be more than happy to share it with all of you. But now, because of time, I think it's already 5:30. 30 minutes I've get into the kind of the delayed part of this session, but it was wonderful having each one of you. I'm thanking all three of you because Vaishali ma'am have left, but very, very, very lovely interaction, and a lot of points to take home. I don't know how to type very fast, so I'm going to see again what you have spoken in the recorded version of YouTube. And I would suggest that you should also go back and see what you have spoken, because they are really, really wonderful and down to earth kind of comments. So thank you once again so much for this. So I now move to the again a formal part of the closing of this session. So what I feel is the numbers are not important. So you would have seen I never talked about any numbers in terms of which sector is leading and which sector is not leading. But one thing which hit me most is what Mani said. It is kind of a 641. That's a number I got, which I have to see and then tell you, because I don't believe in numbers, but I have to tell you this, that the women represent only 6%, 4%, and 1% in technical decision-making and top management positions, which means there's only 1% of women are in the top management positions. Again, Vaishali ma'am said. So the leadership in decision-making, like all of each one of you, is more important, because the long-term impact planning and the kind of a strong focus and encouragement, that comes from the leadership. And I'm not undermining the other positions, but if you strive hard, you become a leader, then you can empower many, many more. So that was my first point from all the discussions that I have seen for the past couple of hours. Then I also feel that the words like enhance, empower, enable, they're all decorated words, right? We don't believe in those words. But what we believe, rather I believe, is that achieve, report, monitor, and progress. Just see what damn you can do on ground, and then try to really showcase that. And you are living examples, and you can showcase immediately, I have done this. So please take this as an example and move forward. So that's a kind of the shift in mind in terms of when you talk about women. I don't believe in those decorated words, but I believe the words in terms of actual achievement. And then also the challenges in terms of moving from freedom to access. First, we said women had no freedom, okay, early 30s, 20s, or whatever it is. Then we said move from freedom to access. Oh, we have freedom, but we don't have the access. Then we said, oh, access is there, but I don't know the opportunity, which means awareness was very low. And then from opportunities, we moved to the intent. I had everything, but the intent of the men or the society is not right. So therefore, I have no opportunities. Then we moved, okay, everything is fine, all is fine, but nobody recognizes me, and I don't know how to showcase or display my work. And then we talk about equality. So there are so many kind of challenges or the journey, and every time either we get stuck with some kind of these keywords, but I would say that most of us are still stuck with the concept of freedom. But again, that's another big topic. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're stuck with intent. I would choose that word is because whatever you want to try to do in the men's world or even in the existing women's leadership world, the intent is not there. Whatever hard work you do, you won't find a space, right? And that intent is not external. It's not only external, but it's also internal. You should have the right intent, and you should see that right intent is resonated in the society. So that's my personal view. The single most barrier, I feel that it's slowing down the whole system. So we have come a long way, but we agree that we have to do a long way to go. So I have some key words to close. So one is that we have to move from boardroom to broad room. So we have to have broad-minded people, right? From board to the broad. And then we should move from the field level to have a level playing field, right? People like Kanika or Tanya, they've gone to the field, but do they have a level playing field? That's what we need. So that is the second aspect I would like to emphasize. Then the last one, moving from entrepreneurship to drive entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a Sanskrit word. So move from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Entrepreneur means self-motivation. I think once you have this confidence and all this motivation, forget about the entrepreneurship. You're going to really succeed with all the qualities that you need to propagate what you believe and what you want to succeed in your life. So that's a kind of a summary of what I heard from each one of you. I would have missed a few things, but I always feel that the adjectives and verbs are not adequate to describe what you can achieve. So you please go and see my message in the edition, which was inserted very recently. I started with what Michelle Obama said. I won't say it now, so otherwise you won't go and see that. So please go and see there. It's a very powerful statement in terms of what you could do. The strength of the nation, they say that is behind the women, right? And you show me the women who are strong, I will tell you how nation is going to be. So that's how the kind of current developments are happening. Maybe it's not true that the coronavirus is or the COVID is well managed by female run nations. Okay, it's again a controversy, but we have seen a lot of countries with female-led presidents and prime ministers are managing it quite well. But that's not a only example, but there are many other examples to say that. So I stop here, and I quote Mother Teresa here. She said, "Do not wait for leaders." She said, "Do not wait for leaders. Do it alone, person to person." And that's where I see each and every one of you and 140 people who have been recognized, the women leaders in this edition, that please do it alone, person to person, and then grow it as much as you can. That's my kind of a closing remark. And I think Dr. Rashi wants to say something.
Yeah.
Ma'am, yeah, please.
What I want to say at the end is that we have been given the responsibility of making Atmanirbhar Bharat. And Atmanirbhar Bharat can only be possible with all the women in the country and with equal support of all the men in the country.
Right.
We all have the responsibility. All the women who are listening to this, you are at the forefront. You are the leaders who have to make the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So with this, that is what I wanted to tell. We have to make the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Wonderful, wonderful, ma'am. Well, again, a very good closing remark. So may I now invite Sangeeta from the organizer to close the session, please. Sangeeta?
Hello?
Yeah, could you hear me?
Audible? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you, Dinesh. On behalf of Solar Quarters, I would like to thank Dinesh for doing wonderful job of moderating 2 sessions so well.
I did like to thank all the speakers for sharing their experience and their views. We are quite confident that such kind of platform will inspire many more women, young girls to join the RE journey. And lastly, I would like to thank all the audience for their participation. Solar Quarter will see you soon in another webinar. Till then, goodbye and have a good evening. And thank you all of you.
Thank you so much.
With this
Bye-bye.
positive note, we'll end for today's meet. Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dinesh. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.